So Joao de Mata, very exotic name. Hopefully I'm saying it nearly right.
Yeah, listen, Julie, it's very exotic, but actually it's just, in English, it's just John, right?
Well, it sounds much better in South African. You've been involved in ownership of quite a few horses, haven't you? Tell us about that, and tell us about your best moment in horse racing ownership.
My best moment in horse racing ownership. I have a friend here in England called Roy Mattison, and I have a very good friend here in England called Phil Maloney. And Phil and I decided to race a horse here in England, and I got asked to name the horse. So I named it quite a weird name. I don't know if you know the story of Maccabi Diva, how Maccabi got her name. So Maccabi Diva's name is, the guy who owned Maccabi Diva took the first two letters of each of his secretaries and created Maccabi Diva. So it's Maureen, Kelly, Beverly, Diane, I can't remember the last one. Something like that. I'll stand on a correction, but that was the premise of how Maccabi Diva got her name. So when Phil and I decided to race this horse in England, I named it GVS Il Portenza. So it was because Phil's Irish, IR, because I'm Portuguese, PORT, because the horse was running in England, which was EN, and because I'm also from South Africa, SA. And we got a couple of friends involved. And one of the guys we got involved is a gentleman called Roy Mattison, who's a very, very good friend of mine. First horse he ever bought. And it was his first winner. And she won a hurdles race, or he won. No, she won a hurdles race. I want to say Stratford or something. And Roy lives in Bexley Heath area. And he must have phoned me 400 times from Stratford to Bexley Heath, saying, I mean, this is a man with children, grandchildren, and was just telling me that he just had the best day of his life. And for me, and my involvement in horse racing, whether it's as a syndicate, a person who runs a syndicate, or somebody who sold somebody a share in a horse, or actually somebody who just tipped somebody a Yankee, it's them. It's honestly, because I've been doing it. I'm not saying I'm numb or comfortably numb, like Pink Floyd said. Like, I love the winners and I love all of that, but I've always been sort of a giver, apart from Andrew Riddell. That gave me the greatest pleasure. Was like, this is a man who just said to me, I have had the best day of my life. And there was just a small race at Stratford for, like, I think prize money was $3,000 or something. Yeah, that was it. I think when I get an email, I used to get an email into the studio saying, thanks, buddy, I've just won $2,000 and I'm taking the family away. I mean, that's just, yeah, that's awesome.
I can understand that. Never happens for me when I'm tipping dogs, but I do understand it. I guess it was that fed into you setting up the International Racing Club. We can see the logo behind you there.
Yes,
yes. To give pleasure, almost. Tell us a bit more about the organisation.
Sure. So myself and my friend Michael de Haas started it 5 years ago now. I always had horses and shares in horses, but I felt that there was a gap in the market, and the gap I identified was it's all cool to have a syndicate in the UK, right? But how cool would it be if we were on holiday in Australia and the syndicate had a horse there as well? And you could go racing in Australia and be treated as if you owned the whole horse. That was what I thought, and that's what I did. So we have got horses in Australia, South Africa, England, and Ireland. We're a non-profit syndicate, so if I buy a horse for $10,000, I syndicate it for $10,000. So actually, the reality is Mike and I feed most of these horses every month, because syndication is hard. Getting people to buy in is difficult. Not because there's a trust issue or whatever, but it's just hard in this day and age with COVID and everything. People aren't just saying, oh, here's a couple of grand, I'll buy a share in a horse. So obviously we've got different models. So that's on the syndication and horsey side, but under the same umbrella, I partnered up with Scott Ellis on the media side of it. So we run tipping line, we run newsletters, we have golf days, etc., etc. And again, it's not a lot of money to join our club, and it's all about what you make of it. And that's, I think, where horse racing is the greatest sport, because, you know, I can say to you, listen, we had a horse running at Salisbury yesterday, right? So we went, a couple of the owners came along, the horse ran second, and the guys have sort of sent me a message last night, like, what a great day out, food was superb, Salisbury staff were excellent, etc., etc. Now, obviously, if the horse wins, we can have more fun. However, I learned from a man called Steve Surrey, he's the #1 host in Vegas. So our philosophy is, our horse will run last, but you'll have the best day of your life. And it works, you know, because there can only be one winner. So it's what you make of it, Judy. And that's what our club's about. If you join our club and I invite you to lunch, and it, you know, it's included in your membership, and you don't turn up for lunch, then I can't encourage that enough. So yeah, listen, 5 years we've had over, I want to say over 80 wins. We've been on a really good streak lately. We've had about 10 winners in the last 2 weeks. Our horse Winetka ran second yesterday at Bath. We're quite a proactive female club. So what I mean by that is, Tony Carroll phoned me a couple of weeks ago. Said, you've got a choice between, I won't name the male jockey, or Molly Phillips. Can she stay on? I said, absolutely, she stays on. Same in South Africa. We've got 3 lady trainers in South Africa. I don't feel there's enough ladies in horse racing for enough. I don't. And that's what we try and do, you know. So put a golf day together somewhere, tied in with going racing, you know, have a bit of a laugh, and yeah, that's what we try and do. I think winning should always be treated as an absolute bonus, because it's a tough game. I mean, you know, and we're playing at this level, right? You know, somebody said to me the other day, I'd like to win the Derby. I said, no problem, give me £5 million, I'll make a plan for you, because those are the numbers you're talking about. So at our level, a horse like Winetka's run second, third, second. That's given us so much pleasure. And it's running at a 61 handicap. It makes no difference. Yeah, so that's what we're about, having fun.
It's such a nice attitude. And you mentioned the tipping line or betting advice service, I think as you call it, and that is profitable every month, isn't it? Where do the tips come from, and how do people get involved in that?
We're pretty good. Listen, everybody claims they're pretty good. There are a lot of very good people out there. I just felt when Scott and I first discussed it, I didn't want to be a tipster. I was already putting out stuff on Twitter whenever I remembered. I wanted to give people more than that. So I spoke to your colleague Hobbsy. I spoke to Stephen Boemel, who does the NFL. I've got a guy, Warren Todd, who does the golf. So at some point in the week, somebody tips something that works out, right? And collectively over the month, we do okay. But it's a hard game, eh? I mean, it's a hard game, don't get me wrong. I think the secret is less is more. So we're pretty good at that. I don't think we put anything out today, maybe only 1 or 2 things yesterday. And like when I was on the telly, like I back them all myself. So there is a little bit of a soothing element in that. When somebody knows that they've lost their hard-earned 50, but the guy who's given it to you has lost $2,000, then yeah, they respect you a bit more. I really believe that. I mean, you know, you worked in that studio. There were days that I sat in that studio. I'm not going to say what I got paid for my shift, but I'm telling you, there were days that on a Saturday morning, I lost like $3,000, and I wasn't getting paid $3,000 for my shift, you know. But the difficulty with that environment is, and I always defend you and all my colleagues that I worked with, is if at the races said to me I had to be there between 11 and 1 to cover those races, then those are the races I've got to do. They're not necessarily races I would have bet in, you know, but I can't just sit there going, So you give an opinion, and I refused to give an opinion without having a bet. So I was betting on horses that I probably wouldn't have bet on if I was at home, because I think you can be quite successful if you're selective. And then obviously education. If I give you an even money shot and you put £10 on, and then I give you a 20-to-1 shot, don't put a pound on. Put the same £10 on. And, people get that wrong all the time.